On their wedding anniversary, James arrived late, holding a baby in his arms. He said, "Accept this child, and you can still be Mrs. James." Everyone let out sighs of surprise. Everyone knew that I was deeply in love with James. Everyone thought that I would, as I had done before, compromise and agree. I stood up, gently pushed the champagne door behind me, and stared coldly at the man in front of me. "As you wish, we're getting a divorce." James looked at me in confusion and asked, "Is it really that difficult for you to adopt a child?" Adopting a child wasn't difficult. What was difficult was raising the child of him and his first love. The shattered glass and spilled wine splashed everywhere, and the banquet was in chaos. The 5th wedding anniversary that I had painstakingly prepared for nearly a month was ruined like this. James, who was my husband, seemed to have forgotten what day it was. All he could see in his eyes was that child. James simply took my earlier actions as me being angry at him for being late. After sitting the guests, he walked up to me with the child in his arms. He put one arm around my waist. "Stop being naughty, Luna. You've scared everyone." I struggled free. "Since you insist on this, then let's adopt a different child. I don't like this one." This was the last concession I could make, and it was also a test for him. "Why, Luna, you clearly like children too. Isn't it great for us to have a child of our own? Luna, look at him. He's chubby and cute." James brought the child closer to my face, wanting me to have a better look. He took my hand and tried to make me touch and accept the child. The baby in the swaddling clothes was fair and clean, looking only 2 or 3 months old. Between his eyebrows and eyes, he resembled his mother, Isabella, James' first love, more. He waved his arms and smiled at me, with an angelic smile that seemed to be able to heal all the bad things in the world. "You see, he's smiling at you. I told you this child is destined to be with us." Apparently, James had disappointed me. A fine, dense pain welled up in my heart. I pulled my hand back irritably, took a few steps back, and distanced myself from him. He thought that on an occasion like this, I wouldn't disagree, and he tried to force me to compromise in this way. But it seemed that I could no longer maintain this so-called dignity of being Mrs. James. I looked behind him and suddenly laughed. "James, do you insist on adopting this child because of her?" Isabella in the crowd suddenly became the target of everyone's attention. Isabella stood there uneasily, her eyes filled with tears, trying to defend herself. "Miss Luna, James and I are already in the past. How could this child possibly be mine and James? I never said that this child is yours and James. What are you so eager to defend yourself for, Miss Isabella? Could it be that this child really is yours and James?" Isabella bit her lower lip and couldn't say a word for a long time. The gazes of the people around and the sharp words were all directed at Isabella. I said, "Why, Mrs. James used to agree to everything before, but this time she just wouldn't agree. It turns out that the child was born to the mistress, not adopted from someone else." "What mistress or not? I heard that this is General Manager James' first love, and now she's still General Manager James' personal secretary. If it weren't for Grandma James' disapproval back then, she should be Mrs. James now. So what if she's the first love? She's interfering in other people's marital relationship, getting pregnant out of wedlock. Isn't she a mistress? Don't forget that the current wife of General Manager James is Miss Luna, and they are a proper married couple. Who does Isabella think she is?" Isabella's face turned pale, and the tears hung on her eyelashes as if they were about to fall. She turned her gaze to James. "That's enough, Luna." James protected Isabella behind him. With just one look from him, the banquet hall fell silent. After all, everyone was afraid of the influence of the James family in Nanchang. "Isabella is just my secretary now. Don't make things difficult for her." I suddenly felt tired. It seemed that I couldn't, as Grandma had said, continue to live with him peacefully. I looked down at the wedding ring on my ring finger that I had worn for 5 years, and a fine, dense pain welled up in my heart. I took off the ring. I've had enough of being Mrs. James. I threw it out without mercy, and it fell into the swimming pool in a parabola, making a very soft sound. Just like the marriage between him and me, it started with great fanfare but ended silently. Under the shocked gazes of James and everyone else, I lifted my skirt and turned to leave. In their eyes, I was always the gentle, dignified Mrs. James who took the overall situation into consideration, but this time I had lost my dignity. The banquet ended unhappily. That night, James didn't come back. According to the butler, he had taken Isabella and her son home. I didn't call to ask, and he didn't send me any messages either. In the morning, when James came back, I was having breakfast. He took off his coat and handed it to the servant, then pulled over a chair and sat down. Halfway through eating, I suddenly lost my appetite and got up to leave. I didn't look at him once during the whole process, nor did I greet him. He suddenly called out to me, "Don't you have anything you want to ask?" What did he expect me to ask? Was it about that child or where he had been last night? In the past, I would indeed have had a hysterical argument with him, but what did I get in return? James frowned and said impatiently, "Stop being unreasonable. Isabella and I are just in a superior-subordinate relationship." This was the so-called superior-subordinate relationship he talked about, and they even had a child together. Even last night, he was in Isabella's reach at moments, kissing and lingering with Isabella. Now that I was really tired and didn't want to ask, he instead asked me why. I slowly turned around and found that James was looking at me as if expecting something. I averted my gaze, took a document from the cabinet, and placed it in front of him. "James, let's get a divorce." His face suddenly froze. "Just because of such a trivial matter, you want to divorce me?" He was always like this, downplaying things as if I was the one in the wrong and the one being unreasonable. My long nails dug into my flesh. I looked at James, who was acting nonchalantly, and said, "In fact, that child isn't adopted at all. He's the child you and Isabella had, right?" On the day I finished my last operation, my colleague in the obstetrics and gynecology department said that James had come to pick me up. I didn't even have time to change my clothes and rushed over in a hurry, afraid that he would wait too long. In the end, I saw him outside the delivery room. The nurse was holding the newly born baby and congratulating him. "Congratulations, General Manager James. It's a big, healthy boy." James was holding the child, and the joy in his eyes couldn't be hidden. Isabella was lying weakly on the hospital bed, with a pair of tearful eyes that were very endearing. "James." James stroked her hair and kissed her on the forehead. "You've worked hard, Isabella. Thank you for giving birth to a son for me." I stood there stunned, as if struck by lightning, and for a moment, I even suspected that there was something wrong with my ears. The nurse in the obstetrics and gynecology department couldn't help but ask, "General Manager James, didn't you say she was your sister?" James' face immediately changed, and he threatened, "If any of you dare to spread this, you know the consequences." I comforted myself in my heart that there must be a misunderstanding. James wasn't that kind of person, but I was wrong. From the moment James repeatedly asked me to adopt a child, I was wrong. A flash of surprise crossed James' eyes and he slowly took out a cigarette and lit it. There was no sign of panic when he was exposed by me. "Luna, you should know that in our circle it's not unusual for a man to have a woman outside." It really wasn't unusual, especially when that woman was his long-loved first love. But I couldn't be like other wives and indulge my husband. I couldn't turn a blind eye. James took a deep drag on his cigarette and continued, "You should also know that if it weren't for you driving Isabella away back then, the position of Mrs. James wouldn't be yours." From beginning to end, no matter how much I explained, he always thought that I had forced Isabella to go abroad. A month before the wedding, I clearly asked him. He said that he was willing to marry me and be with me. How could it be my fault now? The thick smoke lingered, making me cough until tears came to my eyes. James glanced at me, and his well-defined fingers extinguished the cigarette. He squatted down in front of me. He frowned and reached out to wipe the tears from my cheeks. "Are you really that wronged? Weren't you quite capable at the banquet yesterday? Don't worry. I promised Grandma that Mrs. James will only be you. If you want, the child can also be brought back for you to raise. Grandja has always wanted a grandson, and the James group also needs an heir. If you don't want to, Isabella can raise the child herself. I'll arrange for her to live outside and won't let her bother you. Listening to his words, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. I don't even care about being a wealthy family's wife anymore. Do I still look like someone who would raise another person's child? In the hospital, I went to the dean's office. The dean held my resignation application and asked me repeatedly, "Have you thought it through? The conditions there are tough, and it's very dangerous. It's not like here in the country." I didn't hesitate and said firmly, "I've thought it through. I've already passed the interview. Please sign it, Dean." In the past 5 years, I tried my best to be a qualified Mrs. James. Besides my work, I also helped him deal with interpersonal relationships. From now on, I no longer need to pretend to be someone's wife. I just need to be myself. I'm really glad that I didn't resign from my job as a doctor because of James' words. Otherwise, I would be unemployed now. After coming out of the dean's office, I handed over my work. I simply packed my things and bid farewell to my colleagues one by one. On the way back, I received a call from James' grandmother. She asked me and James to go back to the old house for dinner. The 15th of each month is the fixed family dinner of the James family. I looked at the scenery flashing by outside the window. After much hesitation, I still called James. "What's the matter?" James' voice was cold, and I could almost see his cold face even through the phone screen. I held the phone and opened my lips. "Grandma asked us to go back to the old house for dinner." Got it. Ever since Isabella came back, he had always been so cold. It wasn't hard to guess who he was with now, seeing how quickly he hung up the phone. When we got to the old house, the sun was almost setting. Both James and I were busy with work, and Grandma didn't want to live with us. She was afraid of disturbing us and causing trouble for us. So we made an agreement that no matter how busy we were, we would come back to have dinner with her on the 15th of each month. When Grandma James saw me, she stood up happily. Seeing that there was no one behind me, the old lady was a bit unhappy. "Luna, why did you come back alone? Where's James?" I smiled and replied, "He had a meeting suddenly and will come later." Then, I handed my things to the servant and helped Grandma into the house. James didn't arrive until it was time for dinner. He habitually peeled the shrimp for me and put dishes into my bowl. I didn't refuse and quietly ate the rice in my bowl. During the whole meal, we didn't talk much. After dinner, Grandma James pulled me into the room. She asked me if I had quarreled with James. I didn't know how to answer. Telling the truth seemed a bit cruel to the old lady. Grandma James seemed to see through my thoughts. Her cloudy eyes stared at me. "Did that jerk James bully you, eh? Tell Grandma, and Grandma will teach him a lesson for you." I shook my head. "Grandma, if I say I want to divorce James, will you be angry with me?" "Luna, don't worry. Grandma will definitely give you an explanation." Grandma James suddenly became emotional and wanted to go find James. I quickly soothed her. "It's no use, Grandma. He doesn't have me in his heart. You can't force feelings. I spent 5 years but still couldn't get into his heart. For the rest of my life, I don't want to be tied to him anymore. It will only cause pain to both of us. Divorce with him is something I've thought about carefully, not a momentary impulse. I originally thought that you and James could be together happily and support each other. I didn't expect it to turn out like this." Grandma Jane's old hands covered mine, and she let out a long sigh. "Well, it's okay. Our Luna is so excellent and deserves someone better. Grandma, actually, I came here this time to say goodbye to you too." When Grandma James heard this, her words became a bit excited. "What are you doing? Even if you divorce James, as long as I'm here, there will always be a place for you in this family." My eyes felt a bit hot, and I said, "I applied to be a doctor without borders and will leave in a few days." Grandma James was stunned for a moment, and her eyes gradually turned red. Luna, listen to Grandma. Let's just stay in Nanchang and not go anywhere. I knew what Grandma James was worried about. My parents were doctors without borders, and they unfortunately sacrificed themselves during their last mission to support Warzone. I still remember that day. I was sitting on the ground, throwing a tantrum and begging them not to go. My mother gently stroked me and said, "Luna, be good. Your father and I are doctors, and we should go where we are needed. We promise you that this is the last time. After the mission is completed, we will never leave again. Be good and listen to Grandma at home. Don't be naughty." My mother was a liar. She clearly promised me that she would come back, but she broke her promise. The Luna family and the James family had been on good terms for generations. After my grandmother passed away, I was taken into the James family. Grandma James treated me like her own granddaughter. James was punished by Grandma James to kneel in the courtyard. I knew that Grandma James was standing up for me, but what was the use? He would never love me. Until noon the next day, Grandma James still didn't give in. Under the scorching sun, beads of sweat covered James' forehead, but he still didn't say a word and knelt straight. Isabella somehow got the news and came. James said in a hoarse voice, scolding her, "Why are you here? Go back. Do you think I can just watch you get punished?" There were tears in Isabella's eyes. Gritting her teeth, she knelt in front of the James family with the baby in her arms. "Grandma, it's all my fault. Please don't punish James." Grandma James looked down at her from above and said coldly, "Miss Isabella, don't call me that casually. I'm just an old woman and can't afford to be called grandma by you. What does it have to do with you when I teach my own grandson a lesson?" Isabella's face turned pale and then red. The crying of the baby in her arms gave her the courage. "I know you look down on me, Grandma, but this child is James. He's a descendant of the James family. Don't you recognize him either?" Grandma James was a bit slow to react. She even suspected that she was getting old and useless, and couldn't even hear clearly. "What did you say?" Isabella straightened her back and said word by word, "I said that the child in my arms is mine and James." Grandma James composed herself, held my hand a little tighter, and looked at her disappointing grandson. "Is what she said true?" James lowered his eyes and remained silent. "Luna, you tell me. Is what she said true?" I didn't answer. "Grandma, calm down. Let me help you sit down." James' attitude said it all. Grandma already had the answer in her heart. She just couldn't believe that the grandson she had raised with her own hands could do such a thing. After a long silence, James said, "The child is mine." Grandma Jane's eyes swept over the three of us, and she was so angry that she could hardly catch her breath. "You are trying to make me so angry that I could die." Isabella curled the corner of her mouth into a mocking look at me, and then pretended to be understanding, gentle and generous. "I never wanted to compete with Miss Luna for anything. This child was an accident. I know that Miss Luna will never be able to have children again in her life. If Miss Luna is willing, this child can be given to you to raise. From now on, you will be his biological mother, and I will never complain." Before I could speak, James' father, who rushed back from the company, first questioned James. Then he asked if the child was James. After getting a definite answer, James' father let out a heavy sigh and said to Grandma James, "Things have come to this. Mother, even if you don't recognize the child's biological mother, you can't not recognize the child. After all, he is a descendant of our James family. Luna and James have been married for so long and still don't have a child. Why don't we let Luna raise this child?" My hand involuntarily landed on my lower abdomen. There used to be a baby here, and he was also highly anticipated. When I was 3 months pregnant, James' business enemies kidnapped me to take revenge on him. It was also in that accident that I lost the baby. I injured my body because of that, and it's very difficult for me to get pregnant again. Drinking bowl after bowl of bitter traditional Chinese medicine didn't help either. I was most afraid of taking medicine. At that time, James felt sorry for me. He said that it didn't matter if we didn't have a child. As long as we were together, that would be fine. I also thought that life would go on like that peacefully until Isabella appeared. Everything changed, and he became colder and colder towards me. Before I could say anything, Grandma James was so angry that her chest heaved violently. She suddenly threw the teacup in her hand and shattered it. How dare you say that? This is the good son you raised. Grandma gently patted my hand, signaling me to be at ease. You can recognize this child, but this old woman, won't. When James came back, I was tidying up the cloakroom. He had been smoking on the terrace alone all afternoon. I asked the servant to carry down all the clothes I didn't want and throw them away. I didn't touch those jewels. I didn't need them either. They were all given by James, and I had hardly worn most of them a few times. James extinguished the cigarette butt, pushed open the glass door, and came in. It seemed that he was holding something in his hand, but then he put it back in his pocket. What are you doing? I was putting things into the suitcase and replied casually, packing my things. He leaned against the door frame, seemingly quite confused. Are you moving to the old house? I know I'm sorry to you about this. I can apologize to you. It's closer to the hospital where you work. If you're moving out because you don't want to see me, I can move out and live elsewhere. You don't have to compromise yourself. After stuffing the last item in, I zipped up the suitcase, locked the combination, and then looked at him directly. I pulled out the drawer of the bedside table, took out a craft paper bag from it, opened it, and handed the documents to him. Sign the papers. James didn't take it. His eyes were deep as he stared at the 5 big characters on it, divorce agreement. My hand was getting a bit tired from holding it up. Since I couldn't understand what he meant, I simply placed the agreement on the table in front of him. Regarding the division of property, after you've read it, if you have any objections, we can talk about it again. James asked me softly, have you thought this through? I have thought it through. I should have divorced him 2 years ago when Isabella returned to the country. I was the one who had illusions and believed his nonsense that there was nothing between them. I always thought that he still liked me, even if just a little bit. Otherwise, why would he have agreed to marry me in the first place? Now I understand that his wife can be me, but his love can also be given to another woman. He asked me again, have you thought this through? Where else can you go after leaving the James family? I didn't answer. I just calmly asked him to sign. Since you want a divorce so much, fine, I'll sign. I don't know which word of mine made him unhappy. James picked up the pen and signed his name neatly. The handwriting was very scrawled. Then he answered Isabella's call right in front of me and slammed the door as he left. I don't understand. Why is he angry? He and Isabella can be together openly now, and their son can also enter the James family uprightly. Shouldn't he be happy? Actually, James wasn't like this before. He was really nice to me. When I first came to the James family, my peers who were the same age bullied me. They laughed at me, saying that I was a child without parents and a parasite living off others. They pushed me into the swimming pool, and I almost drowned. James saved me and got into a fight with them. From then on, he always called me Luna, Luna. Luna, I'll protect you from now on. Later, I chose to study medicine, and we went to different universities. He had a first love without my knowledge. I don't know how he fell in love with Isabella either. I only know that he said Isabella was very interesting. She would blush after just a few words, making people can't help but want to tease her. Her pitiful look made people want to protect her. I pushed the suitcase downstairs and didn't expect Grandma James to be there. I don't care where you are now. Come back immediately, or you'll regret it. James said in a casual tone, Grandma, don't lie to me. She doesn't have any relatives now. Where else can she go except the James family? Obviously, the she he mentioned was me. Grandma James hung up the phone and insisted on sending me off. When we arrived at the airport and got out of the car, Grandma James' cloudy eyes were filled with tears, and she hugged me tightly. Promise Grandma that you'll take good care of yourself. My nose was sore, and my throat was choked. I said goodbye to Grandma James. As I was about to walk into the airport, Grandma James was so anxious that she was pacing around. Her voice was urgent. Luna, wait a little longer. I've already told James, and he'll come. I looked at the crowd and shook my head. He won't come. Even if he really comes, what can I do even if I wait for him? Grandma James opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something more, but in the end it turned into a sigh. James, what do you think of this dress? Isabella held a baby's clothes and called him several times. James came back to his senses and glanced at it indifferently. It's nice. I don't know why, ever since his grandma made that phone call, he has always felt a sudden sense of unease for no reason. Facing James' perfunctory attitude, Isabella was furious. She threw down the clothes and pulled him, wanting to go to the next store to take a look. James impatiently pulled his hand away. Since you don't like any of them, then I'll ask the driver to send you back. Isabella looked at her empty hand, her eyes gradually turned red, and she bit her lower lip tightly, looking very aggrieved. Do you think I'm annoying? James rubbed his forehead and his tone softened a bit. I still have something to do. You go back first. Isabella didn't make a fuss anymore. She knew that if she continued to make trouble, James would really get tired of her. When James got home, the whole villa was very quiet. He didn't see his grandma, nor did he see Luna. He called a servant to ask. The madam left with her luggage early in the morning. James suspected that he had heard wrong. What did you say? The servant lowered his head. The old lady personally sent the madam to the airport. James' face showed displeasure. Did the madam say where she was going? The madam probably went out to relax and will be back in a few days. The servant replied carefully, afraid of angering him. You can go down now. James raised his leg and walked upstairs. He stood at the door and hesitated for a moment before pushing open the door of the bedroom. The bedroom was tidy, and there were a lot fewer things. There was a faint mark on the wall. He reached out and touched it. This was where their wedding photo used to be placed. In the huge cloakroom only his things were left, and only his toiletries were left in the bathroom. She had packed so cleanly that she didn't leave him even one item that belonged to her. James knew that Luna wouldn't come back. Suddenly, his heart felt as if a piece was missing, and it was empty. In the bar, under the strobe lights, men and women were hugging each other. James, why are you in the mood to invite us out for a drink today? Did your wife make you angry? Or did the one you're keeping outside make you angry? James frowned and drank the wine in his hand in one gulp. She's gone. His friends were a bit confused. Seeing James looking lost, they could probably guess who he was talking about. Did you have a fight with your wife? There's no couple who doesn't fight. It'll be okay in a few days. She knows that Isabella had a son for me and wants to divorce me. I clearly told her that if she wants, she can raise the child, and Isabella won't affect her status as Mrs. James. His friend spat out his wine and widened his eyes. James, who could accept that their husband has a child with someone else? You should have taken precautions in the first place. James gave him a fierce look, and his friend sensibly shut up. He clearly had taken precautions. It's just that once the contraceptive thing was just used up, and he didn't wear it. Her knew that he would get her pregnant just that one time. The phone vibrated. James excitedly took out his phone. It was Isabella calling. His eyes dimmed, and he turned off the screen. He didn't know why either. Now when he saw Isabella he would feel inexplicably annoyed. James' friend asked him who he really liked. You said you don't like your wife, but when she was bullied, you were always the first to rush up. That year when there was an earthquake in the area where your wife was, you were so afraid that something would happen to her that you abandoned a project with tens of millions to go find her. After Isabella went abroad, you weren't that sad either. You were visibly happy when you married your wife. We still remember that when your wife was pregnant, you would run to the hospital at every opportunity and pick her up and drop her off at work personally. You treated her like an ancestor, afraid that she would get hurt. When your wife was kidnapped 3 months into her pregnancy, you were seriously injured while trying to save her. Later, you even brought down the other party and sent them to prison to avenge your wife. James also didn't know what he felt for Luna exactly. That night, Luna came to find him. James, I know you like someone else. If you don't want to, we can cancel the engagement. What was his answer? He said, I volunteered to marry you. After getting married, he rarely thought of Isabella. He would go to the hospital to pick her up on his way home from work every day and then go home for dinner together. After dinner, they would lie on the sofa and watch a movie together. When they had free time, they would go on trips together, even if it was just a walk in a nearby city. When he found out that she was pregnant with their child, he was so happy that he couldn't fall asleep all night. All of this ended when Isabella returned to the country. At first, Isabella came for an interview as his secretary. She was very capable. In his opinion, work and personal feelings couldn't be mixed, or perhaps he had some selfish motives. He hired Isabella. He always remembered that he was a married man, but every time he saw Isabella being bullied, and appearing in front of him looking so pitiful, she could always easily arouse his desire to protect her. At a cocktail party, he couldn't resist having an affair with Isabella. He had to admit that the feelings Isabella and Luna gave him were different. Isabella could cooperate with him, no matter what position. But Luna couldn't. He also couldn't have those dirty thoughts about her. Sometimes, when he faced Luna, he felt very guilty. He tried hard to convince himself that this was a very normal phenomenon in the wealthy family circle. Later, when Luna found out, she had a big fight with him. The first time, he tried to coax her because it was his fault. The second time, he thought Luna was being unreasonable. Even after learning that Isabella was pregnant, he did nothing. He really wanted a child. At that time, he had already thought of a way out. Under the pretext of adoption, he would bring the child back to the James family. He thought Luna wouldn't find out and that he could hide it from her for a lifetime. But he was wrong. There is no such thing as a wall that doesn't let the wind through. James picked up his suit jacket and stumbled out. He wanted to apologize to Luna and ask her to come back. But all he heard was a cold female voice on the other end. The number you have dialed is powered off. Please try again later. In a fit of anger, he smashed his phone. James. Why have you drunk so much? A beautiful figure ran over and supported him. James looked at the familiar person in front of him, and his eyes gradually welled up with tears. He pulled the person into his arms. He knew that Luna loved him so much that she wouldn't really leave. It wasn't until Isabella hugged him back and called his name, James, that he was pulled back to reality. The cold wind blew, and he sobered up a lot from the alcohol. A faint scent of perfume lingered at the tip of his nose. Luna never wore perfume. She hadn't called him like that for a long time, nor had she been close to him for a long time. James suddenly pushed the person away. The person in his sight wasn't Luna, it was Isabella. Isabella was a bit stunned by his sudden action. James, what's wrong with you? James didn't say a word and walked forward dejectedly. The driver opened the car door for him respectfully. Go back to the old house. The driver glanced at the man in the back seat through the rearview mirror, and asked carefully, General Manager James, what about Miss Isabella? James pressed his temple. I said go back to the old house. Can't you hear me? At the old house of the James family, James knelt in the courtyard. No matter how much he pleaded, Grandma James didn't want to see him. In the night sky, there were occasional rumblings of thunder, followed by a cool breeze. Soon, the heavy rain came one after another. Grandma James stood by the window. James's back was straight, and he was soaked through as he knelt in the heavy rain. Eventually, she couldn't bear it anymore. What are you here for? The water droplets on his clothes splashed on the floor. James knelt on the ground in a sorry state, his voice hoarse. Grandma, please tell me where Luna is? Luna has already left and won't come back. Grandma James was furious. What's so good about that Isabella? What kind of bewitching potion did she give you? You don't even listen to me, an old woman. I didn't fail to tell you that Luna was going to leave. It was you who didn't believe it. Now that things have come to this, what are you regretting? Yes, when Luna left, his grandma had clearly told him, but he refused to believe it. When Grandma James looked at James again, there was only disappointment in her eyes. Over the years, I've long regarded Luna as my own granddaughter. I was afraid that if I passed away one day, she would be alone and helpless again. If I had known you were such a scoundrel, even though you are my own grandson, I would never have allowed you to marry Luna in the first place. James's face gradually turned pale, and his clenched fist couldn't loosen feebly. I really wanted to marry Luna. I didn't want to divorce her. She could see that her grandson still liked Luna in his heart, but unfortunately, he couldn't see his own heart clearly. Grandma James sighed. Now that things have come to this, what's the use of saying these things? It's already too late. Then, she asked the servant to hand a piece of information to James. Take a good look at who Isabella really is. He slowly reached out and took the DNA identification report. His pupils trembled slightly, and the veins on the back of his hand bulged. Filled with anger and hatred, he crumpled the paper in his hand. He immediately wanted to rush out and settle accounts with Isabella. James had people smash up the villa. Outside the window, there were flashes of lightning and rumblings of thunder, and there were also crackling sounds inside the room. Isabella had never seen such a scene and was so scared that she let out a scream. James, tell them to stop. This is our home. She tremblingly reached out to grab the corner of James's clothes, but he threw her hand away before she could touch it. James threw the paternity test report in her face and stared at her with his eyes wide open. Who gave you the guts to lie to me? This child isn't my flesh and blood at all. No, it's not like this. It shouldn't be like this. Isabella cried, listen to my explanation. James's eyes were bloodshot, and he tightly grabbed her neck. I've treated you well. Whatever you wanted, I gave it to you. But why did you lie to me about this? You didn't go abroad because you were forced by Luna back then. You took the 2 million yuan given by the James family and voluntarily went abroad under my grandma's test. Back then, when the James group encountered a business crisis, his grandma took the opportunity to test Isabella. Isabella mistakenly thought that the James family was going to go bankrupt. So she took the 2 million yuan given by his grandma and went abroad. Later, after she squandered the money, she willingly became someone else's mistress. When she learned that the James family hadn't gone bankrupt and their business was thriving, after she returned to the country, she immediately broke up with her new boyfriend and came to him. He was really crazy to actually believe Isabella's nonsense. Seeing that Isabella was about to suffocate, James released his hand and coldly ordered his subordinates. Throw her and this bastard child out for me. Also, notify everyone that Isabella will be blacklisted in the entire industry. In any industry, anyone who dares to hire her will be going against the James family. James pinched her chin. I want you to end up on the streets and suffer immensely. Isabella was dragged out and cried out loudly. James, even without me, Luna won't come back. She won't come back. James sat in the midst of the mess, surrounded by countless wine bottles and garbage. Luna was gone. And he had also lost his job. That day, his grandma said that he should go back and reflect on himself. As for the company, it was handed over to his father to manage. As the heir of the James family, he had become like this because of a woman. He was indeed a failure and felt ashamed of his grandma and father's teachings over the years. James, with a beard, tightly held the ring in his hand, placed it over his heart, and shed tears of regret. He had someone fish it up after the banquet that day. He had always wanted to find an opportunity to put the ring back on Luna's finger. He had never thought it would end up like this. The phone rang for a while before James answered it. General Manager James, we've found some news about the madam. James didn't think twice. Book me a plane ticket. But General Manager James, that place is in the midst of a war. I don't care about that. Book me a plane ticket right away. If there's no direct flight, transfer me. 3 years later, the war ended. I boarded the plane back to Nanchang, but there was an urn in my hand. Her name was Daphne, and like me, she was also from Nanchang. When we first arrived in Yindisha, it was the first time we were so close to war and so close to death. The town and streets were filled with gunsmoke, and the air was filled with the smell of gunpowder and an inescapable smell of blood. The wails and cries around us all told what this country was going through. It was the first time in my life that I felt so desperate and helpless. I wanted to help them, but apart from treating the patients, I couldn't do anything else. That day, after coming out of the operation, we sat together looking at the moon and having a heart-to-heart talk. We made an agreement that when the war here was over, we would go home together. But later, she sacrificed her life on this land. I held the scalpel but couldn't save her. I watched as her life slipped away from my hands little by little. Her face was pale and she mustered her last bit of strength to hold my hand. Luna, you have to take good care of yourself. You promised me to take me. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and walked out of the airport. Looking at the bustling city, it was so peaceful, with no war. It was just that in 3 years, there had been so many changes that it was almost unrecognizable. I took her home and handed her to her parents. Her mother's eyes turned red instantly. After I left, she cried her heart out. When my parents' ashes were brought back, Grandma was just as sad, and I also cried a lot. I looked at the clear blue sky and took a deep breath. I hope there will be no more wars, no more bloodshed and sacrifices in the world. I went to the old house of the James family to visit Grandma. After all, in this Nanchang, the only person I missed and couldn't let go of the most was her. After not seeing each other for 3 years, Grandma James was already white-haired, and James's father had also aged a lot. When Grandma James saw me, she was in a trance for a moment and kept asking, "Has Luna come back?" I choked up and said, "It's me who's back, Grandma. I'm Luna." There were tears in Grandma James's eyes. She hugged me in her arms and cried softly. "Luna, James. He's gone." From Grandma James, I learned that for months after I left, James found some news about me. On his way to the airport, he had a car accident and died on the spot. The culprit was Isabella, and she was sentenced to death for it. I listened, and apart from a bit of surprise and shock, there were no ripples in my heart. Those years I spent with James seemed like they had been a very long time ago, so long that I could hardly remember them clearly. This is what he was holding in his hand until he died. I think he wanted to give it to you. Grandma James placed that diamond ring in the palm of my hand. It was the wedding ring I had thrown away back then, and it was still in perfect condition. I lowered my head. On my ring finger, the mark left by the ring was already gone, and this ring no longer held any meaning. I looked at the sunset glow in the sky and buried the ring in the garden, along with that relationship.